go there. Hey, today's the day. Today's the day we turn it around. Today's the day we're gonna remember that we changed our season. It's a big day, baby. And guess what? It's our day. Let's go. Win all three. 1, 2, 3. Win.
Tim was born in England, but just over a year old, we moved to Livonia, Michigan, so that was home for us.
He wasn't one of those babies that needed to be held and rocked. He wanted to be put in his crib and he would sing himself to sleep. He liked to have fun, he liked to laugh, and he liked to play jokes on people.
Oh. What kind is that?
It's a camera. It's taking a picture of you, and then we'll be able to see it on the television. Come on then.
He was very diverse in school. From 2nd grade on, he was in the musicals at school. He was in the band. He was one of the valedictorians. He was a good student. Tim is older than his twin brothers Pete and Andrew, but they played together on the same team.
So my sophomore year in high school, I was the center. My twin brother Pete was the quarterback, and Tim was the running back.
A lot of the plays, it was Andrew to Pete to Tim.
Mr. Touchdown, Tim Shaw added 3 more today.
We definitely held each other to a super high standard. You know, Tim was the guy that you wanted to be on your team, and you wanted to block for, and you wanted to play hard for, and not the guy that you wanted to play against.
He finished with 195 yards today, giving him over 2,700 for the season.
Tim had several high school football records, one of them which was touchdowns in his career.
Tim Shaw! Giving a 134 for his career.
Touchdown Tim, they call him, because he scored more touchdowns than anybody else in Michigan high school football history.
After Tim's sophomore year, started to realize that playing college football was going to be a possibility for him.
Tim had several choices of where he could go to college.
He has boxes stuffed with letters from every major college football program in the country.
We did official visits, and he ended up at Penn State, which was a great fit for him.
Tim as a player at Penn State was a Swiss Army knife. He started out the middle linebacker, he played the will, they played him at defensive end. He could rush the passer, he could drop into coverage, he could play special teams. I mean, he could do everything. Physically, as gifted an athlete that probably was at Penn State during my era, we were a competitive linebacker room, but we couldn't compete with him. He was special.
Tim was drafted into the NFL in 2007 by the Carolina Panthers. Went to the Jaguars for a short time, went to the Bears, and then came to Tennessee.
This was right before the 2010 season, if I can remember correctly. I'm a rookie, so I'm just trying to take everything in. And I remember I'm sitting in this special teams meeting, and the special teams coach was raving about these guys that we had just signed. And we're all like, you know, who's Tim Shaw?
The year before he came here, when he was in Chicago, we were talking about this guy. He's racking up all these special teams tackles. When our special teams coordinator told me that we signed Tim, I was pretty giddy, because as a punter, like, you really want the guys out there that are gonna fight.
Tim's position was middle linebacker, but he was like what you call a core special teams guy. So he was on punt return, kickoff return, you know, you name it, that was his bread and butter.
A lot of people think that in the National Football League, you just come in special teams and you just run down the field like Braveheart and run into somebody else on the other side. It takes a lot of nuance to play the special teams. Tim Shaw already could do that in spades before he came here. That's why we went after him.
I once heard from a coach that the best way to play at the highest level is to have knowledge. And that was never a question with Tim. He knew what the play was. He was like having another coach on the field.
You know, playing with him was a joy because he was always the most prepared, but also always the most competitive, crazy dude. He wanted to make every single tackle on every single kick.
Tim Shaw played in 16 games for 3 straight years. 48 straight games, never missed a game. He had 53 total special teams tackles, which was second in the entire National Football League. He was not only a good player, he was an available player. He was 100% available on game day for every game that he was here with the Tennessee Titans.
Tim was somebody that guys trusted.
For I am the truth. I am the light.
He was dependable. He would hold you accountable. You know, he was always the first guy in the weight room. And so, you know, you take note of that as a player and you respect that.
When 2011 and 2012 came around and it was time to vote team captain, it was a no-brainer.
Rise up, take your place, be someone, be someone. Rise up, show your face, touch your son, touch your son.
A lot of people just think it's the guy that makes the most money, or it's the biggest name on the team. But for most teams in most sports, the team captains are actually chosen by the players.
Let's go now. Hey, today's the day. Today's the day we turn it around. Today's the day we're gonna remember that we changed our season. It's a big day, baby. And guess what? It's our day. Let's go. Win all 3. 1, 2, 3. Win.
Being voted team captain, to me, is the greatest honor you can have, and he led the way.
Rise up, take your place, be someone, be someone. Rise up, human race, everyone, everyone.
I remember in 2013, we're going into the season and we're in the weight room, and I'm noticing that Tim is having some difficulty like lifting weight. Like, Tim has never been the guy who had difficulty lifting weight. He was always yoked up and arms bigger than mine. And I'm just like, man, what type of workout program are you on? But he was having some difficulties, on the bench press and wasn't lifting as much weight as usual.
I just remember him telling me that he felt a little bit slower. I think it was a little bit harder for him to get through practice.
Tim had lost weight. And I said, Tim, what are you doing? You look like you've lost some weight. And we got on the scale and he was about 8 or 9 pounds lighter than he had been the previous time. So we started training and he was making some gains, but not nearly what I had hoped was going to take place. Not thinking anything of it, we just chalked it up to different type of conditioning.
He just wasn't sure if he was going to make the team, and I'm like, man, you're Tim Shaw. Like, what are you talking about? You're the special team stud. He just told me, he's like, I just wasn't sure. I'm not sure how this is going to go down.
Tim was released.
That's pretty tough.
It was about a year and a half later, I get a phone call. And Tim said, hey, Coach, I just want to let you know, you don't suck as a strength coach. And I said, well, thanks, Tim. I really appreciate that. I've done it a few years. And he said, I have ALS. I'd say it's one of the few times in my entire life. Everything kind of froze for a second, trying to grasp when he said the word, I have ALS. I said to Tim, are you talking about Lou Gehrig's disease? Vintage Tim, he goes, Coach, I'm doing good. I just want to let you know what I'm dealing with, and maybe you'll understand more why I've been losing the weight.
I guess my first reaction was like, why Tim? Why Tim, of all people? This is somebody who always did the right thing. Like, he was the example of like how to be a good person. And I just didn't quite understand, like, why Tim?
I went to my locker and I just remember being in total shock and not really knowing and just being really scared. It's still to this day, hearing those 3 words, it just honestly scares the hell out of me.
When you start talking about a disease like ALS, we're talking about losing the ability to have basic functions.
The loss of muscle, the loss of coordination, the loss of balance, loss of a lot of the physical attributes. It's hard to believe.